It's Georgia and Alabama for the Southeastern Conference Championship in 2025. We do it again. We do it about every other year. It seems like the Dogs and Tide in Atlanta. And Georgia's never won this game before. So 21, 23, 2012, and now 2025. These two have met quite a bit. Got national championship games amongst those in that time. A couple of them, 2021, 2017. So a lot of big games for Georgia against Alabama and vice versa. This time, Georgia, a very narrow favorite to win this game, and they've been a narrow favorite to win the last 5 games and have not won a single one of them. Make sure you're joining our newsletter. It's free. I'm going to put the QR code right down below. I expect to see you on our next list because I can't cover everything in every single YouTube video. Please consider that as we head into the Christmas season, holiday season. This line has not moved at all this week. It's been 2.5 the bulk of the time, and it remains there. But this is a big game. It's not a terminal game, and I think that's a difference that folks are having a hard time reconciling. So many of Georgia-Bama matchups have been total, fights to the end, elimination games. We saw that in 23. We saw the national championship in 21, the national championship in 2017, the 2018 game, which I failed to mention earlier, the SEC championship game. That was a terminal game, and obviously 2012 was as well. So the stakes have always been very high between these two teams. But I have to say, I do think this is really on Kirby to win this game. I mean, it's enough already with this. I mean, the resources that are at Georgia are not eclipsed by anyone. They are about the same as Alabama and Ohio State, if not more. And if that's the case, you don't want to be the James Franklin of the Big Ten where you can't win a game against people who are, your peers. And that's what's been going on. And the other thing I'll add to that is it's not like Georgia hasn't had the lead in the second half in these games. It's not like Georgia hasn't been in striking distance in all of these games. I mean, in 18, in 17, 18, 24, they were leading in the second half of the game. But all of these games outside of 2021 SEC Championship game and 2020 in Tuscaloosa, they have all come down in the final play of the game. So these have been tight games. Kirby's been outcoached at times in this period of time, but losing 2 games to Kalen DeBoer, I don't think there's any shame in that, but it is time to get this done. I think they will. I'm naive enough to think that they will, but I don't think it's a certainty that happens either. Both of these teams are abnormally banged up. When you look at the injury report for both Alabama and Georgia, Alabama is missing at least 2 tight ends and probably at least a running back. The question for Alabama is if Jam Miller will play or not. I think he probably will try, but it's going to be rough for him. And then the biggest thing for Georgia, even though they're getting a couple guys back, Taylor specifically, the question really is, can they function without Drew Bobo as their starting center? That was something that seemed to hurt them in the second half against Georgia Tech. But, Tolliver is going to have to come in and play well. He's been practicing up there for months. So this is not a new thing for him. They've also got some opportunities with Glover could slide inside and become the center. But I think, to me, that's going to be the trepidation and the hand-wringing excuses for Georgia fans. It's time to get it done, okay? And there's no reason why Tolliver can't get it done. He was recruited to Georgia for a reason. They don't recruit backups at Georgia. They recruit guys that think are going to play and be starters. And I think that, that's where we're at right now with Tolliver is it's time to perform. And I think he can, okay? So I think, younger guys who have never played before, this is not an abnormal situation for them. They get into your first time playing, and it's tricky, and this is not his first time playing. So this is the 3rd straight game that he will either be the starter or play the majority of snaps at center. Majority against Tech. So, Tech and Charlotte are not the same as Alabama, but Alabama's missing off guys on the defensive line as well. So Overton's not going to play in this game. That's Kalen DeBoer confirmed that on a call with reporters Thursday. So this is a really banged up bunch of guys in the SEC championship game. I don't think Alabama gets knocked out with a loss. I think moving them past Notre Dame means that they will not be out of the playoff. I think they should not be out of the playoff. I think they have earned their way in with wins over Georgia, Missouri, Vanderbilt, Tennessee. I mean, they have got a lot of legitimate wins, and I think that we've got to be the debate about Miami and Notre Dame can occur with an acknowledgement that Alabama is not in that debate because they shouldn't be. Had they lost last week, that was the do or die moment for Alabama. For Georgia, the do or die moment was probably the Ole Miss game, although I'm not sure. We have not seen backs against the wall Georgia in a while, but this is the last game where you get to experience that sensation of being in that position and losing, and quote, it's okay. Your season continues, but I think the tricky part here for Georgia is handling this is not an elimination game, but we really need to win this game for ourselves. This has nothing to do with Alabama. They just happen to be the team on the other side of the field. And, the fan base is fully locked into Munson mode right now, but that's not really reality. I think the win over Georgia and Athens is probably the best win this season, period. And I think it might be the best win this season for anyone. It will be the best win in the regular season. And I'm not sure how you can make the argument that a neutral site game would be a better win for anyone. So that would knock out the bowls and the championships. So I think it was a tremendous win by Kalen DeBoer. It may go down as the best win he has in his career at Alabama. That, considering he seems to constantly be on the coaching hot seat, that is not out of the realm of possibility that that's true. For Kirby, look, I don't know that this game is a lot different than the game with Texas at the end of the season that we just saw a couple weeks ago, in that, Georgia's the better team. They just need to come out and play better. The huge difference between Texas and Alabama is quarterback. Ty Simpson is as good a quarterback as there is in college football, period. He does not have a run game to work with. And so that's something that Georgia's going to have to exploit here this week. The oddity of, there were two things that were odd about the game in Athens. A, that Alabama converted so many third downs in that game. I'm not sure they can replicate that in this next game. And B, perhaps more curiously, Alabama could not stop Georgia on the ground, and they won the game still. Amazing. So that really was just a strange thing in that game with that happening. The other thing that's happened more often than not in this game is that Georgia loses the turnover battle. Alabama's turned the ball over against Georgia, but not tons. And so, and because they don't turn it over a lot. I mean, a lot of this is just because Alabama's good. I mean, people need to keep that in mind, is that, yeah, well, they are one of the premier teams in college football. They are superb. And that's the part that people, want to leave out, is they assume Georgia's the only good team. Georgia fans are like, why can't? Because there's other good teams, and that happens too. But there are other good teams, and you should still win. And that's where we're at right now, and that's what I expect to happen. But we'll see. Now, the ramifications of a loss for Georgia are not so clear to me necessarily. I mean, they're sitting there at the 3. A loss, maybe they drop 1 or perhaps 2 spots, but someone would have to move up as well. That's the challenge. Texas Tech would be one of those teams. I don't know who the other would be. I guess you could talk about it being Oregon would jump past Georgia based on with what win. So, they lost to Indiana at home. No shame. I don't think there's any shame in that, but a win over UW is not at all the same as Georgia's 3 top 25 wins. So, with Oregon, when you take a look globally at the situation, it's not obvious that Georgia will fall out of the top 4. I mean, it would have to be Texas Tech would go over Georgia. And then it would come down, does Oregon pass them? Because I don't think it would be A&M, Oklahoma, or the Rebels. So I mean, just it's not going to be Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is ranked in front of everybody else. So this is a matter of, does Oregon benefit from not playing? And we've seen in the past that that's not been the case with the college football playoff. But every single season is different. But I think Oregon's best win is USC, if I'm not mistaken, at number 16. So Georgia has 2 wins above that. So I'm not sure that Georgia falls out of the top 4, but I don't know. And if they do, they'd be the 5 at the worst. They would be the 5 playing at home in Athens. Probably a junk game on TNT. That would be sort of a throwaway game. I mean, ESPN, Disney's not going to grab that game. So, that would not be a great situation. Probably be a 4 o'clock or a primetime game on Saturday up against the NFL games. If they win, and they still may, if they're the 4, they're going to go to the Sugar Bowl. I mean, I don't know that the committee can justify jumping Alabama from number 10 to number 4. But they might. They would move them past everyone. And I mean, that might happen. I don't know. That'd be a heck of a jump, though, for a team with a loss to Florida State. Okay. I think a lot of people would be like, what now? But a win for Georgia would mean, Alabama's hosting, it would be Alabama is on the road for sure. Now, the question is where. It could be at Ole Miss, could be at Texas A&M. I mean, I just don't, that's harder to know for sure. And then, for Georgia, it means they're in the Sugar Bowl. They would be mandated to be in the Sugar Bowl. For Alabama, if sort of nothing changes, they don't move at all, they would go to Oklahoma for a game with the Sooners to play them, to advance to play Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. If they drop one, they would probably play Texas A&M or Ole Miss for the right to play in the Sugar Bowl. So they just turn around and play at Georgia again. I don't think that will happen. I think it will be a rematch with Oklahoma, but this time over there, and then the winner would go play Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, and the winner would have a challenging game against Ohio State, but we'll just see. For Georgia, they'd probably be the 2 seed, hosting the winner of the 7-10, which is hard to know the answer to that. Okay, we don't know for sure. It could be Miami, it could be Notre Dame, it could be A&M. That's hard to know for sure. I would say probably will be A&M, but I don't know who they would play. And then the winner of that would go to the Sugar Bowl, and that could be Miami, that could be BYU, that could be Notre Dame. So you'd get a pretty stout matchup immediately in the quarterfinals. But that's what this is. For Georgia, though, to even have these discussions, they've got to play well against Alabama. They've got to not have these turnovers at the wrong time. When you think about Nate Frazier's turnover, right on top of the red zone for them, for Alabama to score. When you think about the Dylan Bell, same thing. The defense comes in and forces field goal, but that was enough to get Alabama the win, both in 2023 and in 2025. So, folks say, well, don't be conservative. I don't think the Dylan Bell reverse near the end zone was a conservative call. So that's kind of what people say. It's not based in reality. Georgia just needs to play well. And if they do that, they won't look conservative. I will add this, though. This team is not the style that they play is conservative. That's who they are. And I don't think you can go away from that. That doesn't mean you have conservative play calling. It just means, the way they play is not always conducive to, man, they're going for the jugular. They do it real nice and smooth. They do it nice and smooth. Georgia and Alabama will face off at the Dome in Atlanta at 4 o'clock on Saturday. We'll have everything you need for riding home after the game. Kirby, Kalen DeBoer, all of that will be up on the website as well as on our social media channels. I think Georgia wins this one. But I've thought that in the past, and I think it's time for them to show what they've got. We'll see. Thanks for watching.